Legacy of Wisdom is a nonprofit project building a vision for best practices for living and fulfilling life's potential. While focusing on the last half of life, it remains applicable to all generations.
How can I find my mission to gain a sense that I've fulfilled my life's potential before I go?
Great question. Should I respond?
If you can, yes.
It's a funny thing that you put it that way, because when one of my good friends here in Boulder was dying a few years ago, a guy about my age, I called him up. He was in the hospice program, and he said to me, Rick, are you living up to your potential? And it was a joke that the two of us had, because ever since I was a little kid, I was always kind of, are you living up to your potential? And that led me to become a kind of an ambitious person. And, I went to Yale and Columbia, and I worked for the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. I became the Vice President of AARP. All these kind of things. And I've often felt in my life as if I'm like one of these little rats running on a treadmill. And I now take a different view. And I like to tell people, I'm retired. My career is over. And that's actually a source of liberation, because from a certain point of view, nobody can tell me what to do. But from another point of view, it raises the question, who are you? What have you done? And I sometimes tell people in retirement, and I've been retired now for about a year or two from AARP, you go from who's who to who's he. And that's really potentially a gift. And to me, it was summed up very well by Emily Dickinson in her little poem when she said, I'm nobody, who are you? Are you nobody too? And I'll never forget Ram Dass, who I have the highest admiration for, at our very first National Conscious Aging Conference. He said, aging is the school of nobodiness. You have to learn to go to school to learn to become a nobody. And of course, if you're Ram Dass, it's hard to become a nobody because everybody knows who you are. And I'm not in that category. But to become a nobody is really an inner process. And that, I think, is the real potential of aging. And that's something that we're not taught. We don't prepare for it. Just the opposite. We spend a lot of our life, I certainly have, trying to, well, here's my resume, here's my CV. Have you read my latest publication? And reminds me of the story of the professor who was introduced at a gathering, and somebody said, well, here's Dr. Moody in his last book. And he jumps up and says, no, latest, not last. And that's really the problem. That if we're constantly lengthening our record, our resume, and that's what my friend was asking me. And he was at the point in his life in the hospice program when, in a sense, he had a different version, are you living up to your potential? Well, what is your potential? What is your potential at a given age? At a certain point in life, we look forward. We're always looking forward. We're always busy. We're always active. That's really a kind of an illusion. Yesterday happened to be my 70th birthday. So we're sitting here, and I said to my wife, as we were at breakfast this morning, I said, I was thinking of that greeting card question. This is the first day of the rest of your life. It's a good slogan, but what does it mean? And for me, I think that today, the day after my 70th birthday, it gives me a question. What is the rest of my life? What is my mission? What is my potential? And I have more questions than answers. But I do think, and I've always believed this, that aging is in itself a great gift. Not everybody is given that gift. And as somebody who's worked in the business, the field of aging, for literally 45 years, I was 25 when I first got involved with this. I used to teach in senior centers in New York City, and I was 25 years old. I'm a little bit like the guy who's a scholar of Japanese studies. He spent his whole life learning Japanese, studying the art and architecture, and then one day he has the opportunity actually to visit Japan. He arrives there. What a gift, what an opportunity. So that's the way that I feel. But you'll have to come back and we'll do another interview 5 or 10 years from now to find out if I'm living up to my potential.
Well, certainly at the point where you say, this is a freeing opportunity
Yes.
to face those questions.
Yes.
Do you have any recommendations about, for people who are ready to do that, how they might focus in on that? How do I find first potential? What do I have to do here before I go? What is fulfillment? All those kinds of things. Do you have any recommendations for people about how to approach
I
it?
do. And most of the common sense ones are the ones that everybody already knows. And they have to do with they're what we call in Yiddish Bubameises. Okay? They're things, not that I am Jewish or speak Yiddish, but I kind of speak Yiddish as a second language. And those are kind of common sense, your grandmother's wisdom. And they have to do with things like, if your health and your income are okay, you'll be all right. Well, that's not quite true. But it is true that you're better off not having to worry too much about the health or the money or the social connections. So if people can save a little money, to the extent that they can, if you can take care of your health. I've recently become I call a para-vegan. I'm not really a full-scale vegan, but I try the best I can. And if you can, most important, find the social connections that you need. What is the Beatles song? I get by with a little help from my friends. There's a lot of truth to that. And one of the reasons why I live where I do here in Boulder is because I have a lot of friends and connections here. I've been coming to this town for 40 years. And when we decided to retire here, it's really because we had that kind of social connection already in place. And I've made more friends, more connections. That's very important, and that's something that people have to work at. My wife Elizabeth and I had the great good fortune to spend 6 years as the caregiver for our dear friend Larry Morris, who lived in our house, died in our midst at the age of 97. And Larry, I got a lot of advice from him, man in his 90s. How do you prepare for aging? And he said, make new friends among younger people. So when I meet somebody, like your daughter, for example, that's my attitude. I need younger friends. And I think if people just associate with people their own age, they end up being a little bit landlocked. So for me, the advice that I would give, above all, is people have to live beyond themselves. If you're always thinking about, how am I doing? How's my diet? How's my illnesses, my chronic care? All of this is really a waste of time. And when I was with Elder Hostel, I used to be the chairman of the board of Elder Hostel, the National Elder Hostel Group. I spent a lot of time, as I say, I spent most of my life with older people. They have a kind of a rule in Elder Hostel. Now it's called Rhodes Scholar, by the way. And the rule is don't spend time talking about your aches and pains or talking about your grandchildren. Because other people are not interested in those things. And aches and pains, that's called the organ recital. We don't need that, okay? And keep your grandchildren's pictures to yourself. Talk about other people. Be interested in other people. Help other people. If you do that, you will find satisfaction because you're not limited to yourself. But that's, to me, is really the challenge. It's that old story of the story of the narcissist. And the narcissist says, well, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think of me? Well, this is the fatal, fatal blow in aging. And everything that we do has to be aimed at reaching beyond ourselves. That's why I love what Reb Zalman said. One time we were meeting in a restaurant, and he said to me, this aging business is really very simple. The only question is, are you saved? And I knew he was a clergyman. I said, well, what do you... And he said, no, I don't mean it in a theological sense. I mean it in a computer sense. Are you saved? Have you downloaded your life experience for the benefit of future generations? Have you started doing your legacy work? And I thought, that's brilliant. Reb Zalman was brilliant. Great man. A mensch. Because he understood that it's all about legacy. And so I try to live my life with that in mind. And I think that's the advice that I would give.
Thank you very much.